Namaste guys, ChristianRLong, life enhancement consultant, giving you a big and beautiful shout out on this Friday. It's a little earlier than usual. It's almost 5 o'clock p.m. Mountain Time here in Denver, Colorado. And today's topic, I want to talk about filters. Karen, Namaste, filters. And why is that important? Well, let me give you an example. Right now, you see me wearing glasses, right? And since I was going to say the 11th grade, but nobody says that. Since my body has been 11 years old, I've been wearing glasses. And I think that was in the 4th grade. Yeah, I think it was in the 4th grade that I had my first eye exam. I got glasses over the summer. Then I entered the 4th grade, and everyone was like, dude, you're wearing glasses. And I thought it was like cool. You know how certain people, Denise, Namaste, think that by wearing glasses, you're a nerd. By wearing braces, you're a nerd. By having a retainer, you're a nerd. By having, something that is on your physical body that needs to be adjusted or improved. As a kid, you think that it's a bad thing. And I remember getting glasses as an 11-year-old and thinking, this is cool. Like, I don't know, I just thought it was cool. You know why I thought it was cool? Because I could sit as far back in the class as possible and still see the board. Pedro, Namaste. And for me, that was a big deal, right? Because for many years, obviously, I was squinting, or I had to sit up front, and I didn't even know that I needed glasses. I just thought, well, that's how I see. That's how everybody sees, right? That's the perspective and the filter that we have. So, let me ask you a question. If my glasses were covered in mud, how effective would I be at seeing this iPhone that I'm doing the live stream on? Probably not very effective, right? It would be difficult. I'd have to move my eyes around. I'd have to move the glasses around. I'd probably do the whole smudging thing to remove the mud from the glasses. And even doing that wouldn't necessarily clear them up. So what do I have to do? I have to get out my little alcohol spray, pop off the cap, spray, get out my little tiny, it's so tiny I can barely grab it, my little tiny cloth, and what am I doing? I'm cleaning my glasses. And by cleaning the glasses, what does that allow me to do better? It allows me to perceive the physical world more accurately. It brings things that were once blurry, fuzzy, out of focus, unclear, and then makes them very, very clear. So how does this relate to spirituality? Well, you may have heard the term before, rose-colored glasses. What does that mean? Meaning, physically, if you take glasses that have pink lenses and you put them on, you perceive the world, everything that you look at will have a tinge or hue of pink, right? Now, is that accurate? Is it accurate to see the world with rose-colored glasses? No, right? Does that make sense? So, spiritually speaking, energetically speaking, we have certain kinds of filters, emotional filters, mental filters, and spiritual filters that distort our perception of seeing things clearly. Just as much as you can have two people standing at an accident site witnessing the same accident from different viewpoints, and they most likely will say different things in different ways, even though they both saw the exact same accident. Why is that? Because of the filters that each person has. Those filters can be developed through our karma, of what we did in previous incarnations. Those filters can be developed in childhood. Those filters can be caused by the upbringing of our parents, our grandparents, our school system, our religious organization, or lack thereof, right? So all of these things build filters into our perception of reality. Some of these filters are good. Some of these filters are not so good. So an example of a not so good filter that a lot of people on the spiritual path have is that of being naive. So a lot of people on the spiritual path have very, very big heart chakras, right? They're super loving, they're super kind, they're super generous in giving to other people, But in that process of being kind, loving, and giving and very open, they're also naive, right? They can be taken advantage of by other people because their filter is that the world is like me. The world is like me. So if you're a spiritual person that's going into business and you have a big open heart chakra and you are all about doing fair business dealings with another person, you won't bother to check the person's background, check the person's credentials. You won't bother reading the fine print of the contract. You'll say, no, we don't need a contract. It's all good. A handshake, a verbal agreement is plenty. I trust you, right? That's not a good way of doing it. That's not a good way of living. That's not a good way of practicing your life. Namrata, namaste. And it was actually very interesting. I remember years ago, one of the master pranic healers was sharing that even if you are going to go into business with friends or family members who you've known many years or most or if not all of your life, you should still get everything in writing if you go into business with them, because when you're super excited about something, excited about a business opportunity, excited about building a team, excited about all the money and the fortune and the fame that you're going to make doing some venture, you're not necessarily thinking clearly, so people's emotions are very, very high, and those emotions are clouding the person's perspective, the person's viewpoint, right? So then, guess what happens? The business venture doesn't work out, the agreement doesn't work out, and then there's nothing on paper, and so there's no legal recourse, and there's nothing that can be referred to by either party of saying, well, wait a minute, you said you were going to do X, Y, and Z, and then the other person says, I never said I was going to do X, Y, and Z, but you said you were going to do A, B, C. And then guess what? You have disharmony, you have hurt feelings, you have hurt bank accounts, you have hurt lifestyles, you have a lot of chaos and drama because it wasn't written down. So in order to prevent that from happening, when you go into business with someone, whether it's a friend or a family member, even though you trust them, even though you like them, even though you admire them, you still want to get everything in writing, okay? A big shout out from India, 4:30 in the morning. You were up super, super early. Man, I can't even remember the last time. No, actually I was up at 4:30 in the morning about 6 weeks ago when I was going to the airport, the Denver International Airport. Wow, it seems like it was just a month and a half ago. So we have emotional filters like that. So when we get super excited about something, we're not seeing things clearly. And then we have mental filters that we have certain perceptions on how something should or should not be. So we have religious filters, we have political filters, we have abortion filters, we have monetary filters, we have gun filters, gun rate filters. We have all kinds of filters of right and wrong and what we perceive things to be. That's why when you have more than two people coming together in a room, there's going to be conflict, there's going to be disharmony in the initial stages because their viewpoint is here, your viewpoint is there, so you have conflicting viewpoints that you need a harmonizing factor to come in and to make a workable solution for both viewpoints, right? And that's not very easy to do. That's why we have a lot of conflict in different parts of the world, that some of this conflict has been going on for thousands of years. Think about that. Conflict has been going on for thousands of years because people have such a solid, rock solid viewpoint that they're unwilling to change. They're unwilling to be flexible. They're unwilling to adapt. They're unwilling to be open and receptive to a viewpoint that is different from their own. So one of my favorite questions to ask people that I ever have like a heated discussion with or a heated debate with is, what would it take for you to change your viewpoint? Or what proof would you need to see to change your viewpoint? And then when you ask that question to somebody, it gives them space, it gives them breathing room to go, well, because they're not in the process of defending their viewpoint. They're in the process of going, okay, I have a viewpoint, maybe my viewpoint is not accurate, or it's not the highest level of truth. Okay, what would it take? What would I need to see? What proof would I need to see? This, and this. Then you can start having a conversation. But if you ask that question and the person says nothing, walk away from the conversation. Do you guys hear that? If you ask that question, as in, what proof would you need to see in order for you to change your mind, or to change your viewpoint, or to change your perspective? What proof would you need to see? And they say nothing. Then that person has a calcified idea about something, and they're unwilling to listen. They're unwilling to have reasonable discourse with you. So you just walk away, walk away, walk away. You're wasting your time. You're wasting their time, and there's better things to do, right? So that's why one of the most important virtues on the spiritual path, that at least in pranic healing, that we deal with, is the virtue of accurate perception and correct expression, with the sub-virtue of honesty and non-lying, which means seeing something as it is, seeing something clearly, and seeing it from different levels and different perspectives, right? So a child would see an amusement park one way, a teenager would see an amusement park another way, an adult would see an amusement park another way, a person who is a parent would see an amusement park another way. Which viewpoint is right? The child's viewpoint, the teenager's viewpoint, the adult's viewpoint, the parent's viewpoint. Which viewpoint is correct? It depends. It depends on which level of truth you're perceiving that from. So you can't say that any one person's viewpoint about a theme park, an amusement park, is inaccurate or wrong. That's why it's extremely difficult to see something clearly, to see something as it is, and to express that truth clearly. So that requires, the term is an illumined mind, which Alice Bailey talks about in several of her books. Alice Bailey is an old esoteric teacher from the early 20th century. And she talks about an illumined mind and how one develops an illumined mind in order to discern or to judge something correctly. Right? So, and that's a lifetime practice. And it requires lots and lots and lots of mental effort. It's easy to parrot somebody else. It's easy to copy the words that they say, but to understand why you're saying what you're saying, and to understand why you have the viewpoints that you have and the perspectives that you have, requires a lot of mental effort, requires self-honesty, lack of self-delusion, healthy detachment. So if you ask somebody a question as to why they believe what they believe, and they become emotional about that viewpoint, there's a very good likelihood that they are not seeing the viewpoint clearly, and they don't know why they view what they view, or why they perceive things the way that they perceive them. Does that make sense? So that requires self-honesty, non-self-delusion, healthy detachment. Because if you're excessively attached to your viewpoint, you can't make space for other light, other viewpoints, other ideas to enter the fray. So it's always a big indicator. As soon as someone becomes hyper emotional about their viewpoint, you need to watch out for that. I remember, it's not often, I'm not worked up about many of my viewpoints. If you can prove to me a better way of perceiving a situation, 90% of the time, that wasn't always the case, but 90% of the time I'm open. But there was one thing that took me many years to finally let go of. Whenever this part of my life was brought up by friends or mentors or healers of mine, co-disciples on the spiritual path, whenever they would bring up that topic, I would flare up emotionally, and I would be shut down mentally, and I would push away the viewpoint that, if adopted, would have alleviated my suffering, my pain, and my sorrow around that topic. Does that make sense? So if you catch yourself being emotionally worked up by a viewpoint, you need to examine that. So I hope that helps. I hope that adds some value to you guys in this Friday now evening. I hope you have an amazing, phenomenal Friday night. Be safe, travel safe, enjoy life, live an exciting life, as Grandmaster Choa Koksui would say. And for those of you who are looking for healing, you can go to ChristianRLong.com. It's my website, ChristianRLong.com. Schedule a healing right at the top. Click on it and find a time that works for both of us. And I look forward to serving you in the very, very near future. This is Christian R. Long, Life Enhancement Consultant, wishing you a beautiful Friday, a beautiful week, and a beautiful life. Atma. Namaste. Bye-bye.